when the Second Amendment was being written, I don't think they understood that the 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 power of assault rifles. I don't know if you know people forget that when the Constitution was written, um, it was back when people used single shot muskets, and it took like 10, 15 seconds to reload, and it wasn't efficient at killing 10, 20 people within 30 seconds. Yeah, so I don't obviously, the Constitution is the Constitution. It won't change, but I think that's the thing people forget to think about. So now I'm gonna look into President Obama's proposal, see what he did, see what um see what whether or not I think it'll actually do something, and we'll go from there. So if you want to see the document for yourself, there are ways to do that. There's actually a link. I don't know. I might just put it in the description because that seems like the smart thing to do. It's on CNN.com forward slash. You can probably pause this and type it in after. CNN.com forward slash interactive forward slash 2013 slash /01 slash politics slash Obama gun control plan. Most likely, if you just type in Obama gun control plan in the search engine, the article will pop up. So, what is Obama's plan on this? Let's look. We'll go through it together. First page. Now is the time. The president's plan to protect our children and our communities by reducing gun violence. Second page goes into like what our nation has suffered. Law-abiding gun owners shouldn't have to suffer, but yeah, we need to do something about it. It says the president's plan includes closing the background check loopholes. Keep guns out of dangerous hands with closing the background check loopholes to keep guns out of dangerous hands. Banning military-style assault weapons. Wow, that's not gonna get through Congress, but we'll see what happens with that. Making schools safer and increasing access to mental health services. Okay, so I'm glad he's attacking this from different perspectives. Second page, closing background check. Well, it starts. Okay, it's starting to list like this is number one. Closing background check loopholes to keep guns out of dangerous hands. So it's required background checks for all gun sales. So they're gonna try to clean that up. That's the 40% that I was talking about, which is bought illegally because people who probably wouldn't have been able to buy it if a background check had been done, then they wouldn't have been able to get it. But some places like gun shows, they don't require that, or pawn shops, or some private sales, they don't. It's not strict. It's not being enforced properly. So the first subtopic is require criminal background checks for all gun sales. Right now, federally licensed firearm dealers are required to run background checks on those buying guns, but studies estimate that nearly 40% of all gun sales are made by private sellers who are exempt from this requirement. Okay, so that's the gun show loophole. That's the background check or the gun buying loophole. So 40% of all gun sales that are made by private are made by private sellers, and they're not required to do background checks. That's crazy. Okay. Also, it talks about the 12% who bought it from a retail store or a pawn shop. The 12% of inmates who have guns and where they bought it from. What else? Call on licensed dealers and private sellers to do their part through executive action. Private sellers can already choose to sell their guns through licensed dealers, so the dealer can run a background check on the buyer. and the administration is calling on them to do so. Okay, so I guess they're trying to crack down on that aspect of enforcing that rule. Okay, strengthen the background check system. Address unnecessary legal barriers that prevent states from reporting information about those prohibited from having guns. Yeah, this is. I don't understand how this can actually be a thing, but it is. As far as there are certain legal barriers that prevent people from giving up information about. I don't know if that's just personal information or what, but if they find that something wrong with their background check or something like that, there are legal reasons why they can't report those information about those people who are prohibited from having guns. So let me just read what it says right after that. Some states have cited concerns about restrictions under Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act as a reason not to share relevant information on people prohibited from gun ownership for mental health reasons. The administration will begin the regulatory process to remove any needless barriers, starting by gathering information about the scope and extent of the problem. Okay, that's good. A lot of people don't know about that. I really didn't. I really didn't think that was a major thing, but it is. Okay, improve incentives for states to share information with the background check system. Okay, that deals with giving money, setting up a system, a more efficient system of sharing information with other states. Um, Hold federal agencies accountable for sharing reliable information with the background check system. Okay, so he's some federal agencies also have relevant record. The president is in issuing a presidential memor- memorandum. Sorry, it's 11 o'clock in the morning, people. Holding agencies to requirements that they identify these records, make them available to the background check system, and regularly report that those records are complete and up to date. Make sure dangerous people are prohibited from having guns. Obviously, the background check system is designed to keep guns out of the hands of those forbidden by law to have them. But we need to make sure our laws are effective at identifying the dangerous or untrustworthy individuals that should not have access to guns. The President will direct the Attorney General in consultation with other relevant agencies to review the laws governing who is prohibited from owning guns. All right, banning military-style assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. This is different. High-capacity magazines. I didn't talk about that before, but and taking other common steps to reduce gun violence. High-capacity magazines. Okay. I see a way. I see why that was important because if which I'm pretty certain that banning military-style assault weapons will not get passed. Sorry, by many Republicans in Congress, that would not get passed. But the magazine capacity that might get passed. That might get passed. They're trying to put a cap on magazines, and they're capping it at 10 rounds, I think. So anything over 10 rounds will be banned. Anything over 10 rounds will be banned. So, yeah. Reinstate and strengthen the ban on assault weapons. The shooter in Aurora, Newtown, used the type of semi-automatic rifles that were the target of the assault weapons ban that was in place from 1994 to 2004. I talked about that a little bit earlier. That ban was an important step, but as you know, it didn't get renewed, and so yeah, it's been out of effect since 2004. Limit ammunition magazines to 10 rounds. That's the cap. Finish the job of getting armor-piercing bullets off the street. That's another one. It's a good one. Give law enforcement additional tools to prevent and prosecute crime. So that entails like putting more cops on the street or keeping 15,000 cops on the street, and eliminating restrictions that keep federal law enforcement from doing its job. S- Creating serious punishments for gun trafficking. Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. There is no, but there is no explicit law against straw purchasing or straw purchasers and others who traffic guns can often only be persecuted for paperwork violations. So that's like tap on the wrist for selling a gun illegally, on the black on for gun trafficking. Yeah, they need to enforce a stronger rule, and you know that's what this is trying to do. Help communities across the country keep 15,000 cops on the street. I already talked about that. Take executive action to enhance tracing data. Yeah, that's what I wanted, so that's a good thing. Um, the president will issue a presidential memorandum requiring them to trace all such firearms. Okay. Take executive action to help law enforcement avoid returning guns to the wrong hands. Okay, so if you get arrested and something happens and you're released, they're required to give the gun right back to the criminal, um, and they are not allowed to do a background check. So that's kind of crazy. So if they had gotten that gun illegally or whatever, they can't know, and they can't do a background check again to make sure that they don't get that gun back from them. So I can just imagine, in a police headquarters or wherever, somebody is released out of jail because of something, and they're like, "Oh, here's your gun," but they know that they did something wrong, but they have to give their gun back because, you know, it's their property, and they can't get away around that by doing a background check to make sure, you know, he actually deserves the gun. I don't know. That's crazy. But this is trying to uh, help law enforcement take or do background checks if they're ever in that situation. Um, Finally, give the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives a confirmed director, the ATF. Um, Eliminate restrictions that force the ATF to authorize importations of dangerous weapons simply because of their age. Okay, some people they like to collect things that are ancient or that are relics or whatever you want to call it, and in some instances they can modify it to today's technology and turn them into dangerous weapons. So that's this is trying to fix that problem. Maximize enforcement efforts to prevent gun violence and prosecute gun crime. Okay, let me see, page 8. Provide effective training for active shooter situations for 14,000 law enforcement officers, first responders, and school officials. That's good. That's good. So they plan on, as far as security officers in school, and they're trying to provide effective training for active shooter situations. So dealing with active shooter situations, they're trying to provide training for that, so that the many different incidents that we've had over the past 12 months, 16 months in America, containing mass murders. They're trying to better train officers with dealing with that, especially like security officers in school. Before 911 can be called or police officers are on the scene. And the freeze on gun violence research. Yeah, there are approximately 30,000 firearm-related homicides and suicides a year, a number large enough to make clear this is a public health crisis. But for years, the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, and other scientific agencies have been barred by Congress from using funds to advocate or promote gun control. So basically, they want to end the freeze on gun violence research. So conduct research on the causes and prevention of gun violence, include links between video games, media, images, and violence. So this is basically just the president is issuing a presidential memorandum directing the for Disease Control and scientific agencies to conduct research into the causes and prevention of gun violence. It is based on legal analysis that concludes such research is not prohibited by any appropriation language. The CDC will start immediately by assessing existing strategies for preventing gun violence and identifying the most pressing research questions. So, President wants the CDC to continue to research gun violence to make sure that we better know, what exactly is up when it comes to promoting gun violence. Who is responsible. What are the things we don't know that might be falling under the radar, whether it be media or video games, whether or not they actually have an effect. So we can reduce the variables by scientific data of what is actually contributing to the problem. Preserve the rights of healthcare providers to protect their patients and communities from gun violence. We should never ask doctors and other healthcare providers to turn a blind eye to the risks posed by guns in the wrong hands. Oh. Okay. So doctors cannot, let me just read it. But there is public confusion about whether federal law prohibits such reports about threats of violence. So doctors and mental health, doctors, whether there might be laws in place to prevent them from speaking up about people who may have threats of violence because privacy issues or something like that. I think that's most likely what this is getting into. So whether it's psychiatrist or psychologist or whatever, they can't relinquish information regarding their patients. So maybe this is a way to get around that. Maybe that's what they're trying to do with this. The Department of Health and Human Services is issuing a letter to healthcare providers clarifying that no federal law prohibits these reports in any way. Okay, that's pretty good. Encourage gun owners to live up to their responsibility to store guns safely. So this is to get the gun owners, on their side as well. Launch a national responsible gun ownership campaign. Yeah, this might fall into the gun owners' hands as far as following Obama on this whole bill. So that's good, but a responsible gun ownership campaign. I don't know. That's good, I guess. I don't see the point of it. I see that as a way of reducing his enemies as far as those who are anti-gun control. So maybe that's trying to bring in more of the gun owners on his side. Making schools safer. Put up to 1,000 more school resource officers and counselors in school and help schools invest in safety. So the resource officers include counselors, social workers, psychologists. Okay, those three. Okay. Yeah, a lot of schools don't have psychologists. I went to a public school. They did not. That's pretty common, but that needs to change. Ensure every school has a comprehensive emergency management plan. Okay, that's okay. I'm pretty sure most do, and if they don't, then they better get on it. Create a safer climate at schools across the country. Okay, so this is about bullying and the whole, climate. When it says climate at schools, talking about the problems with bullying and fights and things like that. So fortunately, we already have evidence-based strategies which have been found to reduce bullying and other problem behaviors like drug abuse, poor attendance, while making students feel safer at school and improving academic performance. Okay. Improve mental health services. Touched on this before, but basically this is going into their Medicaid will also cover mental health services. That's good. Provide mental health first aid training for teachers. Okay. I don't know how a teacher will be dedicating, will be able to split her time with as far as teaching classes and getting better at her job while also, you know, training to be a mental health first aid. I don't know. Make sure students with signs of mental illness get referred to treatment. Okay. Ensure coverage of mental health treatment. Yeah, that's what I just said. And that's about it. So it ends with the Medicaid. Okay, that's about it. So, I'm liking what it's doing. As far as from here on, it'll probably have. First of all, a lot of these things will get passed by a lot of the NRA representatives in Congress. A lot of this won't get passed. As far as the assault, I'm thinking the assault weapons ban, that's not going through at all. And possibly the gun magazine size clip, that's not going through either. So, I also think that the CDC research thing, that may be blocked too, because it was prevented by Congress before, because I guess members of the NRA or members of who are working with the NRA, they don't want such studies to be made because it'll better identify the relationship between gun violence and guns and things like that. So they just don't want any research done. They don't want that whole subject to be touched upon. But that, I think that might get rejected, but maybe it won't. And another thing, the NRA they've really been blaming media and they've been blaming. It's kind of funny. They've been blaming media and video games, and yet that's included in this research survey, like research study, but it's also including guns and like gun violence and things like that. So on the other hand, they don't want that to be touched upon, but that department is also gonna give them information on the other things they're blaming on, whether or not it's gonna improve the NRA right or not. So maybe that will go through. So yeah, okay. So my opinion on this. Let me just get into my opinion on this. It's probably been a long video. I don't think, as far as here henceforth, and if this gets passed, right on. I don't think it's gonna make a difference as far as the next few years, because it takes time for this to get for these implementations, these specific implementations, to actually show its effect. Also, there are millions of guns already obtained illegally, and even semi-automatic rifles. There's so many already in circulation. This is banning the sale of them from henceforth, but there are already a lot in circulation. So I don't know. It's tough. You can't really ask everyone to okay, I'm gonna ask everyone for their weapons back, but obviously something like this is a more of a long-term fix as far as controlling the situation. But as far as everything that's in circulation now and everything that's happening now is not being changed. As far as whether the semi-automatics in existence, they're still roaming around. Also, the background check people who like the guns that have gone through without the background check are also still on the streets. So there are a lot of guns on the streets that are obtained legally, and there's no way that this bill suggests that we can clean that up. So basically, everything that's out on the streets now, whether it be criminals with guns, whether it be just people who have obtained it illegally, all the semi-automatics, everything, none of that's going to change. This is just for the future. So I would like to see something more on the ones that are in existence right now to have a more immediate effect, because you're just gonna have anti-gun control supporters saying, "Oh, well, you see what he did? Nothing happened." Of course, nothing is gonna happen because you still have things that are in circulation that this didn't even deal with. So I don't know. That's my opinion on that. I would like to see where it goes. This isn't the end of this. This is not gonna go through. There's gonna be many revisions when Congress gets its hand on it. So don't expect don't expect this to be what is actually going to um going to happen. So yeah, I'm glad to talk with you guys. It's been fun. It's been long. I'm gonna try to divide this the two videos. If I can't, I'm sorry. But yeah, thanks for watching. It's been a good one. Leave your comments down below about what you think. What's your stance on gun control? Whether you agree with this, I want to really hear opinions on Obama's bill. Again, the link is if you go on CNN Politics and just search Obama gun control plan. Most likely it'll pop up. So yeah, just give me your opinions on the specific bill and your whole stance on gun control. If you have any other ideas, what you think about it, and yeah, just comments, your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and have a good weekend, good Sunday, good football Sunday, and I'll probably be back tomorrow again with another video. See ya.